Hello boys, how are we? Today I wanted to talk about the difference between giving up and lacking focus. Now the reason I think this is important is because I think it's something that a lot of guys can't tell the difference between. They can't tell the difference between it in the sense of other people, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but they can't differentiate it in terms of themselves as well. And the reason this is a problem is because it can really lead you to get down on yourself when you genuinely are interested in a task or interested in a job or something like that, but you're just not getting it done. So you've got an essay for uni or a task at work and you're just not getting it done. It can lead people to thinking that they've given up, which means, oh well, I'm just not motivated. I just have no work ethic. I just don't care when I really want to care, and I want to have work ethic, and that really worries me that I don't. When in fact, you haven't given up. It's none of those things. It's just the fact that you completely lack focus. Now, you guys know on this channel, I don't talk about things that I haven't done myself. And when I tell you, I am one of the worst procrastinators, one of the most unfocused people, am sometimes one of the most unfocused people you have ever met. I cannot express that enough. Like, I'm one of those people, as soon as there's a screen in the room, you'll lose me. Like, honestly, I'll get distracted at my own funeral and forget to be dead. Like, I am honestly a nightmare. Any reason to be unproductive and I'll be there. Any reason to not get started. I could have my dissertation due tomorrow. I'll start like cleaning the bricks on the front of my house. I am honestly the worst procrastinator and lack serious focus that you'll know, and that is why one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, because I know how dangerous it can be, how corrosive it can be, and frankly how disheartening it can be. I think especially in today's sort of social media thing, with sort of like Stephen Bartlett talks about this a lot, sort of hustle culture and sort of hustle porn, and everyone seems so productive. If you've looked at Instagram, you'd think everyone wakes up at 5:30 every morning, goes for a 5-mile run, goes to the gym, drinks a gallon of lemon water, and is ready to start work at 7:30, and then smashes out an hour of work. Like, that's a lot of what we see. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing in terms of looking forward and something to aim towards, because obviously it is so good and so important to be productive and everything like that. But what I want to conjure that with is, I think a lot of people who maybe don't naturally have that burst of productivity, who are naturally sort of super disciplined and super focused, they see these things, and again, I'm completely one of these people, they see these things and they think, oh, I'm just not like that. These people are just so intrinsically motivated, they're just... And I'm never going to be like that, and because of that I'm a failure, and I'm never going to get to where they want to go, and all these things start going through your head. And it's just not true. It's just not true for a few reasons. One, if it hasn't been said already, I don't need to. What you see on Instagram is often not very real. What you see on TikTok or whatever is not often very real. Even YouTube's harder to be fake, but especially things like Instagram and stuff like that, it's not real. The second thing is, focus and productivity can be taught. I'm not sure motivation can necessarily be taught, but forming habits and being productive can be. Now, just to quickly back up and talk about Instagram sort of not necessarily being real and stuff like that, I know for a fact, I'm not going to name names, but just people I know through people and people I've met and things like that, who are not influencers, they're not super famous, but they've got a decent following. I know for a fact people who set a 7 AM or a 6:30 alarm, they film a couple of things, put it on their story to make it look like they're up and doing work, and then they go back to bed. I know that for a fact, because I know people that do it, which to me, even by my standards, is just psychopathic. I want to first talk about identifying the difference in this between in other people rather than in oneself. And as always, I'm going to go back to sport, because that is the only language that I speak. So, in terms of the difference between giving up and lack of focus, I'm guilty of this as well, but let's look at it in terms of our favourite sports team. How often do you watch your sports team when they're not playing well, or when certain players are not playing well, and and you just shout at the TV? They just don't care. They've just given up. They're all crap. No one's running. No one, and they're just sitting there taking the money and they're going home. Now, you do not get to the level of a professional athlete. Certainly not in the sports that I'm talking in terms of rugby, football, golf, things like that, where tennis, I should say, maybe not so much golf, but tennis, you do not get to that level unless you are extremely disciplined, extremely passionate, you put in insane amounts of work, insane amounts of sacrifice. Nobody who gets to that level ever walks out onto the football field or rugby field or tennis court and doesn't try. You just can't. Because when you operate at that level, when you are that higher professional athlete, you can't switch off. You will never ever walk out there and not care if you win or lose. It's just not how you're wired. So when you shout at the TV, they don't care, they're a load of rubbish, that is wrong. What's actually true, and what can happen, and happens to everyone at the best of times, and this is why form, again referring to sport, form is very interesting to look at, is they lose focus. They're not out there not caring if they win or lose. They're not out there not trying. They just lose focus. It might be that they've got things going on in their personal life. It might be that they're really unhappy at the club they're playing for, or the mood in the dressing room is terrible, and their mind's off elsewhere thinking about, oh, can I get a transfer here, or what can I do? But no professional athlete steps onto the pitch or onto the court without the intention to leave everything on the pitch and try and give it their all. But what can often happen is if they lose focus, it can very much look that way because they're not concentrating as much. It feels like they're not running as hard and they're not putting in the effort that they normally put in, because you know they can play better than that. And it's not because they're not trying to play well, it's just because they've lost focus and they're not getting to where they need to be because their mind is elsewhere. I know I've sort of already touched on it briefly, but sort of again going back to intrinsic side of things and whether you've given up and whether you're just lacking focus. The reason, as I sort of mentioned earlier, this is so important to differentiate between and see where you're at is because this lack of time management, this lack of productivity can absolutely kill your motivation. If you're sat there, and I've sort of been there, and this is why I've sort of had to make notes on this, and why I want to talk about this is I've been there, and this channel actually could almost be an example. I love doing this. I love being on YouTube. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've had jobs where I've literally been sat at my desk going, I like this job, I want to do well, but I'm just physically struggling to do the things. And that's where I started thinking, am I just a lazy person? Do I just not care? Have I just given up? Do I just need to go and get a job where I don't have to do anything at all? Or am I just going to never have a job for the rest of my life? Obviously those things aren't true. When it comes to the right things, I can be incredibly productive, and when I get in the right headspace, I can be incredibly hardworking. But what had happened is, even if things I wasn't aware of, I was so unfocused. I was always thinking about other things. I was always checking my phone, or I had my laptop open there, or I had another screen open there, or I was thinking about something I was doing, what I was doing after work. So rarely was I actually head down, focused on the work I was doing. Even though it was a job I enjoyed and I didn't have a problem with it, I just completely lacked any focus in it. And if you're sat there thinking, oh, is this where I'm at? One, what's your productivity like? How much work are you getting done? Two, and the biggest one, are you clock watching? If anyone who tells me their day's drag at work, either one of two things are happening. Either you hate your job, or you're completely unproductive. It's unfocused, sorry. Or you're completely unfocused. if it's the first one, if you hate your job, my advice would always be try and find another one. And a lot of people will just be, yeah, I work in, I don't know, Primark, and I just watch the clock all day because I hate it. That's fair enough. People don't always enjoy retail jobs. But if you're in a like an office job where this is what you want your career to be, and you find yourself clock watching, you either don't actually enjoy the job and you need to find something else, or you need to focus. Because, and if you've had days like this, you'll know the days that people that actually focus and enjoy their job will just say there are just not enough hours in the day, because they will be so focused and they'll be doing what they need to do so much, is they'll get on the phones at 8 o'clock and before they know it, it's lunchtime. Then they'll come back after lunch, they'll get back to work again, and before they know it, it's 5:30 and they've gone, oh God, there's more things that I need to do, because they're just that focused that they don't even know what time it is. And the days that you are focused are the days that absolutely just fly by. So to round it off, that's sort of where I'd leave it. Have a think about where you're at with your job and things like that, and next time you do sort of find yourself in a bit of a rut, whether it be with work, whether it be with anything else, don't beat yourself up. Don't think, oh, I'm just not good enough to do this job. Be honest with yourself. Am I actually focused? Have I really blocked everything out? If you're working from home, maybe can you leave your phone in the other room? Would that for a morning, would that really kill you? If you're, I don't know, for me, I don't eat before midday, because if I ate in the morning, all the blood would go to my stomach and I wouldn't be able to concentrate, I wouldn't be able to focus. For me, the best thing that I can do that works for me is I put on some background music, almost elevator music, very quiet, and then I put my phone in the other room and I just shut the doors and I don't think about it. When I do that, I blitz through my work. But when I don't do that, if I've got my laptop there, or if I've got even if I've got my phone there, even if there aren't notifications, I'll just check it. I'll just check it every now and then, as we all do, and we doom scroll or whatever it's called, where you sit there for ages. So just try different things at work, cut out distractions. If after all that you're still feeling crappy about things, maybe it's time for a change. But thank you for making it all the way to the end. I do appreciate you guys who stick around for these. If you did find any of it useful, please do consider liking, subscribing. As always, comment any other advice you have below, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, lads.